Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Muhammad Renaldo Bilwantoro from Nmark 4. Uh, and today I will present about my final examination about Bank Indonesia Energy Driven Inflation and Exchange Rate for Volatility. And the topic that I choose is the topic 10. And here is the list of contents. The first one is about macroeconomic context. In here, I will explain about Indonesia energy profile, Keynesian multiplier, and how energy price drive inflation and rupiah weakness. The second one is the key challenge like fit rate spillover, fiscal dominance, like the BUMN or SOE debt burden, and supply chain working capital pressure. The third one is about policy and regulatory framework, Bank Indonesia legal mandate, inflation targeting, macroprudential tools, and exchange rate instrument. And the last one is about the solution and recommendations from me, like five evidence based on reform spending, subsidy design, restructuring, SME credit, and capital markets. So the first one is about macroeconomic context. In here, I will explain about the Indonesia complex energy profile. Yeah. In here, Indonesia have a dual role as an exporter and also importer. Indonesia is one of the larger exporter of like coal, palm oil, nickels, and LNG commodity that generate major export revenue for Indonesia. But at the same time, Indonesia also must import roughly 400,000 to 500,000 barrels of refined petroleum per day because domestic refining capacity is very limited in Indonesia. And this is paradox actually that make Indonesia economy very highly sensitive to global oil prices. When price is rise, import costs rise and putting pressure on the current account, the rupiah, and creating ultimately domestic inflation. Despite committing to clean energy transition through the GATP agreement, coal still power about 60% roughly of Indonesia electricity in based on 2024, and the transition is concerned by financing gaps and infrastructure limitation and politic economic challenge. Here is the number about 500,000 BPD net oil import volume, 60% coal in power generation, and energy subsidy in 2023 alone is already 339.6 trillion. And it is roughly make about 30%, 13% of the total state budget. And here is the number that define the challenge is Indonesia currently, based on 2023, is 1.37 trillion. Now is rise. And based on the April 2026, rupiah is already 17,600 per $1. And here is the peak inflation in September 2022, 5.95% after the COVID. And it is the big policy, BI peak policy rate in January 2023, about 5.75%. And it is the BI FX reserve in 2024 Q1 is about 140 billion US dollars, and the foreign ownership of the SBN is less than 500%. And here is about the Keynesian multiplier subsidies. Here is the formula is 1 per 1 minus MPC. What is MPC? MPC is marginal propensity to consume, is the share of extra income to people to spend and not to save. And high MPC in Indonesia, most lower income Indonesia households spend nearly all of their traditional income. This means that multiplier is larger, means that every rupiah of subsidy spending circulate multiple times through the economy, protecting the consumption and aggregate demands. And there is the crowding out risk is when the subsidy are financed by excessive government borrowing, they push up interest rates and reduce the private investment. This reduces the net multiplier effect and can actually slow economic growth and the opposite of the intended results. And the last one is about the design implications. Target cash transfer to the low income household, the high MPC in Indonesia, generate a stronger economy multiplier per rupiah than universal than universal fuel subsidies, which also benefit the wealthier household who tend to save more. This is the economic case for subsidy reforms. And for the next one is how energy price drive inflation and rupiah weakness. And here is uh, the list is first the global oil price rise, war like happening now, supply cuts and demand spikes push crude the price up, and import costs increase. Indonesia pay more USD for refined fuel means that the current account weakness. Rupiah depreciation is more USD demand favor export means that the rupiah will fall. Domestic fuel price rise is either subsidy fiscal cost or pass through the inflation. BI raise interest rates to anchor inflation and defend the rupiah, but growth slows. And here is about the BI rate and the CPI inflation. We can see that through the years it increased the CPI inflation, but decreasing in 2024. Meanwhile, in 70 RBI is through the year is increasing. The second one is the K challenge. And the US feed spillover problems is also one of the key challenges that happen in Indonesia economy is because one of the biggest internal pressure of BI Bank Indonesia comes from the decision made by the US Federal Reserve when the Fed raises the interest rates. Global investors move their money into the US dollar assets and seeking better return, initially triggering capital outflow from emerging market like Indonesia. This is explained by modeling Fleming theory. A country cannot stimulously have like a first is a stable exchange rate, second is a free capital movement, and the third one is independent monetary policy. Indonesia allows free capital flow, which means it sacrifices some monetary independence. In practice, BI is often forced to follow the Fed, not just because it is domestic condition required, but it's to prevent the Russia from continue to falling. And between the 2022 and 2024, the Fed raises rates by 525 basis points, one of the fastest cycle in history. Foreign investors sought Indonesia government bonds. Foreign SBN ownership fell from 38% in 2021 to just below 5% in the mid 2023. This capital fight put sustained downgrade pressure on the rupiah and left BI with a little room to suspect domestic growth. And here's the data. This 525 bps US Fed rate hikes from 2022 to 2024 and 38% to 500%. And here is the rupiah. Right now it's more low because it's already 7,800. And the next one is about fiscal dominance and the subsidy traps. Fiscal dominance occur when the government financially problem limit what the central banks can do. Indonesia massive energy subsidy bills for 339 trillion rupiah in 2023 is over more than 30% of the state budget itself, is the main source of these pressures. When global energy price rise, the government has two bad options. The first one is absorb costs through the budget, weakening deficit and crowding out private investment, or the second one is rise domestic fuel price, immediately triggering inflation and forcing BI to hike rates. And hidden dimension is the circular problem with a payout policy. BUMN like PLN and Pertamina are required to pay dividend to the government, but when the margins are squeezed by the subsidy prices, the government ended injecting subsidy compensation back in. The net fiscal cost is significant and complicates the BI job. And here is energy subsidy spending through the years. As we can see, is continue to grow, yeah, consistently. And here is SOA, or we can also call it the BUMN, debt burden and supply chain pressure. SOA capital structure problem. PLN and Pertamina are both the biggest company in Indonesia, two of the biggest company in Indonesia, or two the biggest company of Indonesia. both carry enormous debt. PLN liability exceed more than 500 trillion rupiah, a large rate denominated in foreign currency. This creates two macro problems. The first one is when the rupiah weakness, their foreign debt repayment costs rise in rupiah terms that worsening their balance sheet and increasing the contingent fiscal risk for the government. The second one is excessive debt limits their ability to raise a new capital for renewable energy investment. Too much leverage raises the cost of capital and reduce investment capacity and directly hampering the energy transition. The second one is the what I want to explain is about the working capital shocks in the supply chains. A less visible but important inflation source involved in SMEs in Indonesia energy distribution and food supply chains. When fuel price spike or increase, this business face a sudden increase in operating costs at the working capital shocks. Many cannot access bank loan easily. They lack of for collateral or credit history that bank requires. So when the cost spike, some of SMEs cut deliver frequency, reducing inventory, and exit the market entirely. And this will resulting in the localized supply chain shortage and the price spikes that show up at cost push inflation. They can be that cannot solve by raising the interest rates alone. Addressing working capital access is therefore a structural prerequisite for managing inflation. And the next one is about policy and regulatory framework. So, the first one is BI, Bank Indonesia mandate independence and inflation targeting. Here is the legal basis and independence for BI. Bank Indonesia operates under the law number 23 in 1999, amended by laws in number 3 2004 and number 6 in 2009. This law established BI as the fully independent from the government, so government cannot be interfered in, cannot be order to finance the budget deficit or print money just for politically purposes. This independence is fundamental to BE's credibility. BE legal mandate is to maintain monetary stability, defined as the first, low and stable inflation, second, a stable rupiah exchange rate. These two goals sometimes pulled in different direction, creating difficult trade-off for policymakers. And BI communicates policy through regular monetary policy board meeting, like every 6 or 8 weeks. Inflation report and press releases, it's all designed to manage public expectation and maintain institutional trust. The next one is about inflation targeting framework or ITF. Is the current target is 2.5%, uh, plus minus 1%. And since 2005, PI has used the ITF, obviously announcing an inflation target and use it tool to hit it. The idea is that the transparent credibility target anchor people's inflation expectation and making actual inflation easier to control. In practice, this ITF works well for core inflation, like driven by demand. However, headline inflation often breach the target due to the food and energy price shocks that monetary policy cannot be controlled. Roughly of 18% CPI consists of government administered prices like fuel, LPG, and electricity. And this means a significant portion of inflation is determined by fiscal decisions, not monetary condition as a key structural limitation of BI framework. Here is Bank Indonesia full policy toolkits. The 7DRR is type of monetary, and what it's for is control inflation, get borrowing costs, and how it practice is main benchmark rate. When BI raise this, banks charge more for loans and reducing spending and inflation. The second one is open market ops or OMO. Is monetary also is managed daily bank liquidity is when BI buys or sell government bonds to inject or absorb rupiah from the banking system. The third one is SRBI, is Sekuritas Rupiah Bank Indonesia, is also monetary, is attract foreign investors support rupiah. It worked new BI issued tradable security offering competitive rupiah return to the foreign investor. The next one is reserve requirement. GBM is monetary or macro control how much bank can lend. Minimum percent of deposit banks must park at BI. The higher deposit, the tighter credit supply. MLIP is macro prudential liquidity incentive policy. This type is macro. What is for is direct credit to the priority sector. It works that bank lend more to the green food or MSME sector receive lower GWM as an incentive. The next one is FX intervention, and the NDF is type is exchange rate to stabilize the rupiah is when the BI buys rupiah in the open market. The NDF provide hedging for the business to manage FX risks. DHA regulation is devisa hasil ekspor sumber daya alam. It is the type FX or fiscal. Is for increasing domestic FX supply is when exporters required to park uh, around 30% of excess earning in Indonesia banks for more than 3 months. And the last one is loan to the value or LTV is macro is for prevent credit driven asset bubbles cap. How it works is caps how much bank can lend relative to collateral value limits over leverage in property and vehicle. And the last one is for the solution and recommendation. Here is the five solution for more stable Indonesia economy. First one is fiscal monetary coordination. It's create a joint committee BI MOF like Pepenas with pre-agreed response protocol for energy price shocks that and reducing uncertainty and aligning fiscal and monetary response. The second one is monetary smarter subsidy reforms ya kayak like Keynesian logic is replacing universal fuel subsidy with the target cash transfer to the low income household. That means high MPC, the stronger economy multiplier, lower final fiscal cost at a fiscal stabilization fund for community booms. Fixed SOE or BUMN capital structure and dividend policy, issue green bond and sukuk to refund PLN or Pertamina debt of the biggest company in Indonesia, reducing foreign currency exposure and adjust dividend requirement during the high stress period to the SOE can retain its capital for investment. The next one is expand working capital access for SME, extend BIMLIP, macroprudential liquidity incentive policy to include logistic and food supplies SME, create a credit guarantee schemes via state bank like BRI, BNI, and Mandiri or BTN, something like that, and to reduce supply side inflation pressures. The next one is deepen the capital market for long-term stability, scale green issue, and promote SRBI, Sekuritas Rupiah Bank Indonesia, international to attract ESG and international investor with the longer time horizon and reducing Indonesia vulnerability to Fed-driven capital flight. And for the last one is about the monetary recommendation. The first one is Keynesian multiplier logic must get how subsidies are defined and reformed. The next one is also a capital structure and payout policy reform, directly reducing fiscal and monetary risk. The next one is working capital for SMEs is a structural fix for cost push inflation. The next one is long-term capital, green bonds, and SRB to build lasting rupiah resilience. And the last one is coordinated fiscal monetary policy is Indonesia most powerful macroeconomic. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.